Oh, yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. So today we want to say hi to everybody, and so I'm here to, I'm still doing a test podcast here. This is not the program, but we are still working on our channel, making sure that the channel work good for everybody. We learn this and we keep learning every day. So my being here today is to, encourage myself to do what I'm doing here. So today we'll be talking about just a little story. We'll be talking about Africa. First, we'll dive into Nigeria. The quite recent activity with the United States President. He talked about seizing the land of he talked about attacking the group that involved with kidnapping people in Nigeria. So I wrote a little story about Nigeria, just a little story. The story is a warning to our fellow Nigerians, because we, the Liberians, we have experienced what happened to us when we all was kids. Exactly. So encouraging foreign country to come and invade part of your country or invade your country, that's very alarming. And before it happened, we are Africans and we love our Nigerians, and we'll tell you, the citizens of Nigeria, don't never encourage any form of war in your country. Don't never encourage any form of invasion from a foreign country in your country, because when it happens, you got nowhere to go. Friend, you got nowhere to go. You're going to become refugees everywhere in the world. So this is our little advice, and I will play the story, but I want you to listen to this identical wording I myself wrote our story for our fellow Nigerians. Okay? So I'll bring you the story. Let me tell you though.
Imagine a story set in the vibrant heart of West Africa, Nigeria. A tale that begins with a promise, a whisper of liberation carried on the wind. And powerful object, magnificent and powerful, arrives, hailed as a beacon of hope. All corners of the nation, from the bustling streets of Lagos to the ancient city of Kano, gathered to witness its arrival. It was meant to be the dawn of a new era, a symbol that would unite and free its people from generations of struggle. The air was electric with anticipation. Songs of freedom filled the streets, and children danced, dreaming of a brighter future. This object, they believed, held the key to unlocking Nigeria's true potential, a future where prosperity and peace would reign supreme. But destiny, as it often does, had a cruel twist in store. The very beacon of hope began to cast a dark shadow. Its immense power, once seen as a gift, started to ripple through the land in unforeseen ways. The ground trembled, not with joy, but with instability. The object's energy, meant to build, began to displace. Families who had lived on their ancestral lands for centuries found themselves uprooted. Their homes, their memories, the very sense of belonging vanished. What started as a trickle of displaced people soon became a flood. Nigerians, once proud inhabitants of their rich and diverse land, became refugees in an instant. The dream of liberation morphed into a nightmare of exile. Scattered across the globe, they carried with them the fragments of a broken promise. The object, their supposed savior, had become the architect of their sorrow, leaving them without a homeland. They found themselves in foreign lands, not as welcome guests, but as outsiders. Their stories met with suspicion and their culture misunderstood. The very people who were meant to be freed were now adrift, navigating a world that seemed to have no place for them. Their identity, once rooted in the Nigerian soil, was now a question mark. This is a story of how a symbol of hope became a source of profound despair, leaving a nation's people to wander, forever searching for a home they could no longer return to. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more compelling narratives from around the world.
Unite our continent. We the African need to try to unite our continent, because it's not going okay with the Western country at all. Things are not the same. Things are really falling apart every day. All the Western countries, that include America, everybody fight for their own interests. And while we are watching, witnessing our youth, our continent, our young people struggling to go in white country, to go and seek better life. Even myself, I'm not in my own country. So it's a growing concern that we all to try to support the idea of bringing our country, our continent first. Yes, I'll do that for the sake of saving our continent, Africa. So, Nigerians, please try to avoid war into your country and allow citizens unite to work. And when you unite, that will deal with everything. You can solve any problem. I'm a Muslim, I believe in that. Unity. That's what the Almighty is stressed about. So, we'll go to Sahel region, Burkina Faso. What's the difference between the military leaders and our so-called democratic leaders? Or what do we want? From my view, what I noticed quite recently, I see that many of our people from Africa support military regime or military regime. I'm not saying they don't, probably some of them, the majority of our people are in support of military regime. And when that is the case, if that is the case, our people supporting military regime everywhere, if that is the case, then our leaders, our democratic leaders, to be very careful. I mean, for the security, I know they will get guaranteed security for themselves. But how reliable will that be? How reliable would that be? Even if you have a bunch of security everywhere over you, how reliable would that be? Because you can see our military people, the development they carry on right now into the Sahel region, and they are distancing themselves from the democratic leaders. They cannot tell the youth that this is the way to go. Even myself, I'm getting to believe that our democratic leaders, they are not the solution for Africa. They are not the solution for Africa. I'm not talking about politically motivated military regime change, like what we observe, what we recently observed from the coup that just took place in Benin and what they call Madagascar. This was something that was not really planned properly. But if the military people plan to take their country to save their generation, if it is planned, they do very well. I'm not talking about European politically organized coups, so we can see that a lot of Africans are supporting. From the young man from Burkina Faso, Ibrahima Traoré, quite recently, his coup d'etat that he has done and bringing development to his country. And you can see all the people in his country are very happy. Majority, that tells you something is not right and people need change. So I will dive into Burkina Faso and, bring you some of the songs right now.
And no one can tell our story better than we can ourselves. For a long time, they were the ones who told whatever they wanted about Africa. They were the ones who told whatever they wanted about Black people. Now it is time for us to say no to that and to tell things as they really are. I encourage you to pursue this project, which we will strongly support. Burkina Faso is under construction. We have started to change many of our laws to allow for better coexistence, but also to secure the investments of Burkinabe people and of all those who wish to come and invest in Burkina Faso.
For most people, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger only appear in the news for one reason: crisis. Coups, sanctions, insecurity, food shortages. Rarely do these countries show up in stories about long-term planning or economic strategy. That is why a decision taken quietly in Mali's capital deserves attention. In December 2025, the military-led governments of these three Sahel states agreed to create a joint regional investment bank, a financial institution designed to fund roads, power projects, and agriculture across their territories. The bank is capitalized at 500 billion CFA francs, about $895 million, and will be funded not by foreign donors but by the countries themselves. Each has committed a portion of its own tax revenue to make it work. At first glance, it sounds technical and unremarkable. But behind that decision lies a deeper shift in how these countries intend to finance development, reduce external dependence, and take control of their economic future. So, what changes will this bring? Let's find out. For years, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger were described in almost identical terms: fragile, aid-dependent, perpetually unstable. Whenever development was discussed, it was framed as something that would arrive from the outside: a loan approved in a foreign capital, a grant tied to conditions, a project designed elsewhere and implemented locally. That pattern became so normal that few people questioned it, until December 2025. That month in Bamako, the three countries made a decision that broke sharply from that script. Without waiting for donors, without announcing negotiations with international lenders, they agreed to create a regional investment bank of their own. The institution was capitalized at 500 billion CFA francs, roughly $895 million, with the explicit purpose of financing infrastructure, energy, and agricultural projects within its borders. No symbolism, no vague promises, a functioning bank with committed capital. What made the move unusual was not just the timing, but the context. All three governments are military-led. All three face security threats from insurgent groups. All three are under varying degrees of diplomatic and economic pressure. In that environment, most states cut long-term spending and focus on survival. These three did the opposite. They locked in development financing. The decision did not emerge from abundance. It emerged from constraint. Traditional regional mechanisms were no longer available in the same way. Relations with ECOWAS had collapsed. Donor trust was strained. External financing had become slow, conditional, and politically unpredictable. Instead of attempting to repair those channels first, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger chose to bypass them. The bank they launched is not an aid-receiving institution. It is a development lender. That distinction matters. Aid is spent once. A bank revolves money. It issues loans, recovers repayments, and reinvests capital. Over time, it grows. By choosing a banking model, the three states signaled that this was not about emergency relief, but about building a permanent financing tool. The sectors targeted were also revealing. Infrastructure determines connectivity and market access. Energy determines whether industry can exist at all. Agriculture determines food prices, imports, and political stability. These are not short-term wins. They are the slow, expensive foundations of sovereignty. Projects in these areas often struggle to secure donor funding because returns are long and politically sensitive. This bank is designed specifically to fund what others avoid. Equally important is how the bank is being funded. Each country committed roughly 5% of its tax revenues to capitalize the institution. That means the money comes directly from domestic economic activity. It is not borrowed. It is not conditional. It is not reversible at the request of an external partner. Once tax revenue flows in, capital accumulates. This choice fundamentally changes the development equation. When projects are funded by domestic taxes, accountability shifts inward. Delays, failures, and successes belong to the state. There is no donor to blame and no external authority to defer to. Development becomes a matter of governance, not negotiation. At this early stage, the bank's existence alone has already altered expectations. It shows that these countries are not merely reacting to pressure, but actively restructuring how they plan to finance their future. The move forces a reassessment of how much agency the Sahel actually has when it decides to act collectively. And that raises the central question that follows from this first step. Why did these three countries choose to pool their money and take this risk together, instead of acting alone? They chose to act together because none of them could afford to act alone. Individually, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger all face the same structural problem. Limited fiscal space combined with overwhelming needs. Roads must be built across vast territories.
This video right here.
Power generation remains insufficient. Agriculture absorbs most of the population.
He just says something. He just says something right now. He talk about why those three countries have decided to join together, to become partners. Because one country, it seems like one country cannot afford to stand alone. So compare that with what we all are witnessing in the United States. United States is not just one country. They join together to be united, to make it with one united country. And this is what they have been fighting us not to unite at all. So the moment Africa talk about uniting, it become a problem.
Story set in the vibrant heart of West Africa.
Uniting, it become a problem, right? So at the end result, our unity is not working. So now the Sahel region, they have decided to join together, to work together, to help their countries. And I believe other African leaders, they were still being puppets. They don't want to work with them. And they say, well, no problem. Say you guys don't want to work with us. And we don't want to remain puppets. We want to work. We all got life. And if you guys don't have value for your life, we will go ahead and become ourselves. And that's where we are right now. So guys, they are working together and they are happy, and they just build a bank, cooperation. They are cooperating with one another. I hear myself keep clapping behind my We dive into the story and bring the remaining story here so you can watch it from Burkina Faso. You don't have to like them, but they're doing what they are doing well.
But remains undercapitalized. Any one of these challenges can drain a national budget. All three together can break it. Pooling resources changes the mathematics. A regional investment bank allows capital to be concentrated rather than fragmented. Instead of three small national programs competing for scarce funds, a single institution can prioritize projects based on regional impact, economic return, and strategic value. It also spreads risk. If one country faces a temporary fiscal shock, the institution as a whole remains functional. But there is a deeper reason why cooperation mattered in this moment. These three countries are no longer operating within the same regional architecture they once did. Their withdrawal from ECOWAS was not symbolic. It cut them off from financing mechanisms, development programs, and policy coordination platforms that had shaped West Africa for decades. Leaving the bloc created a vacuum, not only political, but also financial. Rather than leaving that vacuum open, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger chose to fill it themselves. The bank effectively replaces part of the economic infrastructure that ECOWAS once provided. Instead of relying on regional development institutions where decision-making power was dispersed and politically constrained, they built one where control remains firmly in their hands. Shared ownership means shared governance. No external voting blocks, no donor-driven policy frameworks. Acting together also sends a message, not outward, but inward. Cooperation reduces uncertainty among the three governments themselves. Shared capital forces coordination. It discourages policy divergence. Once financial systems are linked, political fragmentation becomes expensive. In that sense, the bank acts as both a financial and political stabilizer. The regional approach also makes the institution more credible. A single-country development bank in the Sahel could be dismissed as vulnerable or temporary. A tri-national bank backed by pooled tax revenues and mineral-rich economies carries more weight. It signals permanence. It suggests that this is not an experiment that can be quietly abandoned. This credibility matters for the next phase. The bank is not meant to stop at $895 million. That initial capital is the foundation, not the ceiling. By operating as a regional lender, the institution is positioned to mobilize additional funding from African financial markets, regional partners, and aligned states without surrendering control over project selection. Importantly, the cooperation is rooted in shared economic logic, not ideology. All three countries depend on similar sectors. All three face similar constraints. All three have experienced the same limitations of donor-led development. Acting together is not about symbolism, it is about efficiency. By pooling money, risk, and planning capacity, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are attempting to create economies of scale where none existed before. That alone can determine whether large infrastructure and energy projects move from paper to reality. Yet cooperation and capital are not enough on their own. The success of any development bank ultimately depends on governance, on who runs it, how decisions are made, and whether financial discipline is enforced. So the question that now becomes unavoidable is, how will this bank be managed, and what safeguards exist to prevent it from becoming just another weak institution? It will be managed as a bank, not as a political office, or at least that is the line these governments are trying to draw. From the outset, officials were clear that this institution is not meant to operate like a ministry or a spending agency. Mali's finance minister confirmed that the bank is already operational and that the next step is appointing its leadership, executives responsible for mobilizing capital, approving projects, and enforcing repayment. That sequence matters. Capital first, structure second, leadership next. This is where many state-led development efforts fail. Money exists, intentions are announced, but governance is rushed or politicized. These governments appear to understand that risk. By delaying leadership appointments until after capital commitments were secured, they signaled that this is not a placeholder institution, but a functional lender that must meet financial standards. The core test will be whether the bank is allowed to behave like a bank. That means evaluating projects on economic viability, not political symbolism. It means enforcing repayment even when borrowers are state-linked entities. It means rejecting projects that cannot sustain themselves over time. None of this is easy in environments where political pressure is constant. But the structure of the bank creates incentives for discipline. Because the capital comes from tax revenues, mismanagement has immediate domestic consequences. Losses are not absorbed by foreign donors or external creditors. They hit national budgets directly. That alone raises the cost of failure for decision makers. The regional nature of the institution also adds a layer of accountability. A project approved in one country is backed by capital from all three. That creates peer pressure. No government wants to explain to its neighbors why shared funds were wasted on poorly planned projects. Regional ownership makes mismanagement visible. There is also the question of expertise. Development banks do not succeed on patriotism alone. They require technical skill, risk assessment, project finance, and sectoral knowledge. This is why the appointment of leadership is being treated as a decisive phase. The bank's credibility will depend less on political alignment and more on whether its executives can operate within financial realities. History offers useful context. Successful development banks were rarely born in stable conditions. South Korea's state-led finance emerged after the war. Europe's reconstruction banks were built amid political uncertainty. Even China's policy banks operated under intense external skepticism. What distinguished them was not the absence of politics, but the presence of discipline. This bank enters existence under scrutiny. Critics will point to insecurity, sanctions, and governance risks. Supporters will point to necessity and long-term planning. Both are correct. The institution sits at the intersection of ambition and vulnerability. Yet there is a structural advantage that did not exist in earlier decades. These three countries control resources that generate steady revenue. Gold in Mali and Burkina Faso, uranium, and Niger. Those revenues create potential capital inflows that can strengthen the bank if managed carefully. Unlike aid-dependent institutions, this one can be reinforced by domestic wealth. The bank's success will not be measured by announcements or early disbursements. It will be measured by repayment rates, project completion, and capital growth over time. That is a slower story, but a more revealing one. And this brings the focus back to intent. A development bank is not created to impress observers. It is created to shift who decides what gets built. Which leads to the deeper question: what does this bank actually change in the balance of power between these states and the external actors they once depended on? Let's pause for a second to say big thank you to the Black Culture Diary community, where Black voices, stories, and legacies are preserved and amplified. By becoming a member, you're not just supporting the channel, you're becoming part of a powerful cultural movement. Let's continue. It changes leverage, quietly, structurally, and in ways that are hard to reverse. For decades, the balance of power between Sahel states and external actors was shaped by one simple fact: money came from outside. Development funding flowed through donors, multilateral institutions, and regional blocs. That gave those actors timing power, veto power, and narrative power. Projects could be delayed, funds could be frozen, conditions could be added or withdrawn. Even when aid arrived, it often arrived late, reshaped, or reduced. A regional investment bank funded by domestic tax revenue disrupts that arrangement at its core. Once capital is internal, leverage weakens. No foreign capital can be suspended mid-project because the funding source is not foreign. No policy priority can be quietly re-ranked by a donor committee because project approval happens inside the institution. Development stops being something negotiated and starts being something executed. This does not mean external actors disappear. It means their role changes. Instead of gatekeepers, they become optional partners. Instead of decision-makers, they become co-financiers if invited. The timing of this shift matters. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are not building this bank in a neutral geopolitical moment. They are doing it after withdrawing from ECOWAS, after disputes with traditional partners, and amid increasing pressure to realign politically. In that context, financial independence is not abstract, it is defensive. By creating their own lender, these states reduce exposure to political conditionality. Security policy, diplomatic alignment, and domestic reforms become less vulnerable to financial retaliation. That does not eliminate pressure, but it blunts its sharpest edge. There is also a psychological dimension. When development is externally funded, domestic planning often becomes reactive. Governments wait for approval cycles, donor missions, and budget support reviews. Internal capacity weakens over time because initiative migrates outward. This bank reverses that flow. Planning starts locally. Projects are designed to fit domestic timelines and priorities. The role of the state shifts from applicant to allocator. That change alone alters how ministries think, plan, and coordinate. Regionally, the bank also consolidates the political alignment of the three states. Shared capital creates shared exposure. If one government faces pressure, the institution becomes a buffer. If one country stabilizes faster, its economic gains can support the whole structure. This interdependence strengthens their collective negotiating position. Externally, the message is subtle but clear. These countries are not rejecting cooperation. They are rejecting dependency. They are not closing doors. They are changing who holds the keys. Of course, this shift does not guarantee success. Capital control can be misused as easily as external aid. But the source of failure changes. If projects fail now, responsibility is internal. That accountability, uncomfortable as it is itself a form of power. The bank also signals something to populations at home. Development is no longer framed as a gift delayed by foreigners. It is framed as a national effort funded by national resources. That can reshape public expectations and political legitimacy over time. In short, this institution does not overthrow the global financial system. It sidesteps it where possible and negotiates with it where necessary. That is a far more durable strategy. But leverage and autonomy introduce a new challenge, one that cannot be outsourced or blamed away. So the critical question becomes, can these governments sustain discipline and restraint once they fully control the money meant to shape their future? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video, and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now.
The struggle we are waging is tough, and it is a test of endurance. And you have decided to carry our message throughout the world. We are not fighting for Burkina Faso alone. We are fighting for Africa. We are fighting for Black people.
That discipline will be tested the moment the first big decisions are made. Once a development bank begins approving loans, pressure arrives from every direction. Ministries want flagship projects. Local authorities want visibility. Political allies want speed. In fragile environments, the temptation is always to rush, to prove success early, to show results before systems are fully in place. That is where many institutions quietly break. This bank will face that test almost immediately. Infrastructure, energy, and agriculture are not neutral sectors. Roads decide which regions grow and which are bypassed. Power projects determine which industries survive. Agricultural financing affects food prices, imports, and political stability. Every decision produces winners and losers. That is why discipline matters more than ambition. If the bank approves projects based on political urgency rather than economic viability, capital will erode quickly. If repayment is not enforced because borrowers are state-linked or politically sensitive, the revolving model collapses. Once repayments slow, the bank stops being a bank and turns into a spending agency. And spending agencies do not survive long without external support. This is where the regional structure becomes a double-edged sword. On the one hand, shared ownership creates peer pressure. On the other hand, it multiplies political interests around every decision. Each government will want its priorities reflected. Balancing those demands without fragmenting capital will require
politicians every time, even if their mother will not care. Part of the global said. So, on that note, it's a break. We might get it
Welcome to Amina TV Network, your premier source for insightful news and captivating stories from Liberia and the global world. Stay informed with our comprehensive coverage, bringing you the stories that matter most and connecting you to the heart of Liberia and beyond. This is Amina TV Network. Inform, inspire, and engage. Welcome, everyone, to a brand new journey in media. A fresh voice in the world of news and storytelling. We are thrilled to introduce you to Amina TV Network, your new premier destination for insightful news, in-depth analysis, and truly captivating stories, not just from the heart of Liberia, but from across the globe. In today's fast